All right, everybody, get ready for this because today we are diving deep into the world of SaaS UX, and we're going to be using this really cool article called "Five Steps for Diagnosing and Improving Your Product's UX Strategy" from Standard Beagle Studio to guide our exploration.
Okay.
Now think about it. I mean, we all use these SaaS products all the time, and some of them, well, honestly, some of them just make you want to pull your hair out.
Right.
So today we're gonna decode why those frustrating moments happen. But more importantly, we're gonna figure out how to fix them.
That's good.
We're talking about real world stuff here, like real strategies that are used by actual UX experts, like the folks over at Standard Beagle. Oh, and by the way, it's a woman-owned firm.
Yeah.
And they've actually helped companies just like yours banish those nasty little UX gremlins that are lurking in even the slickest software.
Yeah. And what I think is really interesting here is that we're focusing on B2B SaaS. UX in this world, this space, it isn't just about making things look pretty.
Right.
It's really mission critical. You know, these platforms have to handle incredibly complex workflows, and they juggle massive amounts of data.
Right.
And users expect a seamless, consumer-grade experience.
For sure.
So any little friction, any hiccup can really lead to frustration, can impact productivity, and ultimately, really hit the bottom line.
Absolutely. So Standard Beagle, they lay out this five-step plan. They call it understand, gather, identify, create, and evaluate.
Okay.
Sounds kind of simple, right?
Yeah.
But we're going to find out that there's a lot more to each stage than meets the eye.
All right, I'm interested.
So first up is understand where UX issues hide.
Okay.
You know, those little things that drive users crazy, but they're not immediately obvious. It's kind of like detective work, don't you think?
It is. It is. And just like a detective, you need to start with the evidence.
Oh.
Right. So in this case, that means we have to look at user engagement metrics. So think about things like drop-off rates during onboarding.
Yep.
The amount of time people are spending on key screens, or even, how often users are running into error messages.
Oh, yeah.
Those are annoying.
Yeah. These metrics are I think of them as smoke signals.
Okay, yeah.
They're pointing us towards potential UX fires.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So the article actually shares this really interesting story about MedNet. It's a healthcare SaaS platform that was having some real trouble with their user onboarding.
Okay.
People were signing up, but then they were just abandoning the platform, in droves.
Oh, wow.
So Standard Beagle, they dig in and they find the culprit.
All right, Emma, what was it?
It turns out the setup process was just way too much information all at once.
Oh, yeah.
It was overwhelming new users. But here's the thing. Here's the takeaway for you.
Okay.
By simplifying those steps, just making them easier,
Yeah.
pacing the information better,
Uh-huh.
MedNet dramatically increased their user activation.
Wow.
Sometimes just these small changes can have a huge impact.
Absolutely. And that, I mean, the ad example really perfectly illustrates why the second step, gather qualitative and quantitative data, is so important.
Yeah.
We can't just rely on the numbers, right?
Yeah.
We need to understand the why behind user behavior.
For sure. And while those user engagement metrics, they give us clues, actually talking to actual users through interviews and usability testing, that provides the rich, nuanced context we need.
Yeah.
You can actually observe firsthand those aha moments.
Right.
And equally important, those points of friction that, make users want to tear their hair out.
Totally.
But conducting effective usability testing, that's a skill in itself, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's not just about passively watching someone use your product.
Yeah.
You have to give them real world tasks
Uh,
and encourage them to think out loud as they're working.
yeah. And carefully observe both their successes and their struggles.
Right.
That's how you uncover those hidden pain points.
Right. The things that they're not even realizing are tripping them up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They even share a case study about Central Health, another healthcare platform.
Okay.
Their usability testing revealed that patients were stumbling over medical jargon and confusing layouts.
Makes sense.
But by redesigning those workflows to be more, patient-friendly, they saw a big jump in user satisfaction.
Cool.
So this not only makes, obviously, happier users, but also it leads to a healthier business.
For sure. You can't have one without the other.
Absolutely. Okay, so now that we kind of know how to gather our clues, let's turn our attention to the usual suspects, right?
Right.
Those common UX pitfalls that trip up even seasoned SaaS companies. This is where Standard Beagle's step 3, identify common UX pitfalls, comes in.
Okay, let's hear him.
And let's be honest, I mean, we've all encountered these at some point.
Oh, yeah.
First up, the dreaded overwhelming dashboard syndrome. You log in, and it's like staring into the sun.
Right, yeah.
Just a blinding array of charts and graphs and, data points that just make your head spin. I'm sure you know the feeling.
I've been there.
So dashboards, they're supposed to provide insights at a glance, right?
They are, but
Not induce data paralysis.
exactly. The key is to focus on, essential information, stuff that directly supports, what the user is actually trying to do.
Right, their goals.
Exactly. And it's even better if you can empower users to customize what they're seeing so they only see the data that's relevant to them.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay. Next on our hit list is complex navigation.
Ooh,
We've all
yes.
gotten lost in a sauce product at some point, right?
Oh, for sure.
Clicking through endless menus and submenus, feeling like we're trapped in a digital labyrinth.
It's the worst.
It's like that, I know it's in here somewhere, but where? Feeling. It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
Standard Beagle, they highlight the case of 5Alarm, a music catalog platform whose navigation system was so convoluted users couldn't even find the basic search functions.
Oh, no.
So simplifying the menu and making key features, more prominent, and that actually led to a huge improvement in search completion rates.
That makes sense.
And this just shows, again, how crucial it is to have clear and intuitive navigation, especially for busy users who, need to get stuff done quickly.
It really comes down to respecting the user's time and cognitive load.
Right.
If navigating your platform feels like a constant uphill battle, people are just going to give up and find a solution that's easier.
Absolutely. Okay. And last but not least on our kind of wall of shame is unclear onboarding.
Oh, yeah.
We all know that sinking feeling when you sign up for some new service, right? And you're immediately hit with a wall of text and confusing instructions and a million things to click on.
Right.
It's like you're being thrown into the deep end without knowing how to swim.
Yeah, and especially in B2B SaaS, where you often have those, really complex workflows and multiple user roles, onboarding has to be smooth and guided.
Yeah.
It needs to hold your hand a little bit. Remember MedNet?
Yeah.
Breaking down those complex tasks into bite-sized, easily digestible steps can really make a world of difference when it comes to getting users engaged and activated.
Yeah, it makes them feel like they can actually do it. So, okay, so we've identified these common UX gremlins.
Right.
But, with limited resources, where do you even start?
Yeah.
Do you always go for the biggest problem, or are there times when those quick wins are more strategic? That brings us to step 4. Create and prioritize your UX improvement roadmap.
Okay, so this is where we shift from, detective work to being more strategic, right?
Right.
We've gathered the evidence.
Right.
We've identified the bad guys.
Yeah.
And now we have to make a plan of attack. And the thing about SaaS is it is always changing.
Yeah.
It's constantly evolving, so you can't tackle everything all at once.
Right.
So you have to prioritize. You have to be smart about it.
Okay, so how do we actually go about building this UX roadmap
Yeah.
and deciding where to focus our energy?
Well, like we said before, data.
Okay.
Look at all the feedback that you've gathered.
Right.
Analyze those user engagement metrics.
Uh-huh.
Pinpoint the issues that are having the biggest impact on your key metrics.
Like conversion rates and...
Exactly. Conversion rates,
Yeah.
user activation, overall user satisfaction.
Right. It's kind of like deciding which fires to put out first, right?
Yeah, it is.
You want to focus on the ones that are causing the most damage, but sometimes those smaller, kind of smoldering ones, they can spread quickly if you ignore them.
Oh, yeah. They can get out of control.
So we need to balance tackling the big, sweeping changes with those quick wins that can at least keep users happy in the short term.
Exactly. Addressing those easy-to-fix issues, it can really boost user morale and prevent them from leaving.
Right.
It buys you time to work on those deeper, more structural changes that may take a while to roll out.
Right. Like a phased approach. And of course, we can't forget about ongoing user testing.
Oh, absolutely not.
Even after we implement those big improvements, we still need to keep our finger on the pulse of user experience,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The article talks about 5 Alarm's roadmap. They use it as a good example.
Okay.
So they tackled those navigation issues first. They streamlined their search interface, and then they layered in secondary enhancements and continuously tested to make sure the changes were actually working.
Smart.
So it's all about iteration and constant improvement.
Yeah. Yeah. It never really stops.
Okay, so we've made all these changes.
Right.
We're constantly testing, gathering feedback, but how do we actually know if our UX magic has worked?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah, right. So that leads us to step 5. Evaluate the impact of your improvements.
Okay.
This is where we see if the proof is in the pudding, right?
Yeah. Let's see what we got.
Remember all those metrics we were tracking earlier?
Mm-hmm.
Drop-off rates, session lengths, error rates. We've got to revisit those, see if our changes have actually moved the needle in the right direction.
We need to see results.
We need that data to back it up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one really powerful tool for this stage is A/B testing.
Oh, yeah.
So you can compare, different designs, messaging, features, head-to-head, see which one really resonates with users.
So it's like an actual experiment.
It is. It is.
that-
It's like running a controlled experiment.
Yeah.
See which version wins the popularity contest.
I like that. Okay.
But, just keep in mind that you need enough data
Yeah.
to make sure the results are reliable, like statistically reliable. If your data sets are smaller, then you can combine preference testing with usability testing to get some really good insights.
Okay, that makes sense. And the 5 Alarm case study, they come up again here. They actually A/B tested their new streamlined search interface against the old one. And the results were crystal clear.
Yeah.
The new design was a winner.
Yeah.
Higher search completion rates, happier users. That's the power of, using data to validate.
It is.
It helps us make sure that our, gut feelings are actually backed up by real results.
Right, because sometimes our intuition can be wrong.
Exactly.
And this brings us to a really important point. UX improvement isn't a one-time thing.
Right.
It's an ongoing commitment. The SaaS landscape is constantly changing. So you have to keep working on it. You have to build a culture of continuous UX enhancement.
It's like tending a garden, right?
It is.
You can't just plant the seeds and walk away.
No, you can't.
You got to nurture those plants, prune them, make sure they're getting enough sunlight and
Have
water.
to stay on top of it.
So how do we make sure that our UX garden keeps flourishing? What are the key ingredients for ongoing success?
Well, I would say regular testing and feedback cycles are essential.
Okay.
Think about scheduling, maybe biannual or quarterly usability testing sessions to keep up with how user needs are changing, and to catch any new pain points early on before they become big problems.
Right.
Yeah, you want to stay ahead of the curve.
And of course, we're still relying on the data to guide our prioritization.
Always, always.
It's an ongoing balancing act, right?
Yeah.
Addressing the urgent issues, but also planning for those long-term strategic improvements.
It's about finding that balance. And here's the thing. It's not just about the UX team working in isolation.
Right.
We need to create a UX-focused culture across the entire organization.
So everybody needs to be on board.
Everybody. Product development, marketing, customer support, and everyone.
Wow. Okay.
Because when everyone understands the importance of UX and they all feel empowered to give feedback,
Yeah.
then you create a much better environment for improvement. You get more valuable feedback, you get more support for making changes. It just works better.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Central Health, from our earlier example, they really took this to heart. They decided to integrate UX into their entire product life cycle.
That's great. How did they do that?
They actually implemented quarterly usability checks.
Smart.
This way, they can stay ahead of the curve and make sure that user experience is always top of mind. So we've journeyed through these 5 steps to SaaS UX enlightenment.
We have.
But this is just the beginning, right?
It is.
There's always more to learn and explore in the world of SaaS UX, especially when it comes to, specific strategies and techniques.
There is. I mean, think of these 5 steps as a framework for thinking about UX, a way to approach the challenge in a systematic way. But within each step, there's a whole world of methods, tools, best practices to explore.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's where things get really interesting.
For sure.
Because there's no one-size-fits-all approach to SaaS UX.
Right.
What works for one product might not work for another.
Yeah.
It all depends on your users, their needs, and the challenges of your specific platform.
Okay. So as we move forward, it's important to remember that UX is It's an ongoing process
It is a journey.
of learning, experimentation, and refinement.
Yeah.
It's about constantly asking questions, challenging assumptions, and finding new, innovative ways to create, like, truly exceptional user experiences.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
As we're talking about this constant evolution of SaaS UX, it really makes me think about the bigger picture. We're seeing this like real shift from just, building software that works to crafting these truly engaging and even, I'd say, delightful experiences.
Oh, I love that word delightful. You don't hear that enough when we're talking about, B2B software. But shouldn't that be what we're striving for? I mean, if our users dread using our product, how can we expect them to, you know, be productive, let alone like actually loyal?
Absolutely. Delight is about exceeding expectations. It's
Mhm.
about creating an experience that's not just, usable, but enjoyable, something that they'll remember.
Yeah.
Think about those times when you use a product, you're like, wow, that was clever, or that just made my life so much easier.
It's like that feeling you get when you walk into like a beautifully designed hotel lobby.
Yeah, yeah.
Or when you get a handwritten thank you note from a business, it's that extra touch that makes you feel like valued and appreciated.
Exactly. And in sauce, those little moments of delight can show up in lots of ways. It can be a seamless onboarding process,
Yeah.
a helpful tooltip that pops up just when you need it, or even a well-written error message.
Hmm.
Something that makes you chuckle instead of like groan in frustration.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So it's really about anticipating the user's needs and going above and beyond to make the whole experience as smooth and enjoyable as possible.
It is. And when you do that, when you create those moments of delight, you're not just building a better product, you're actually building stronger relationships with your users.
That's a good point.
Yeah, they're more likely to, stick around to tell their friends about your product and to become like true advocates for your brand.
Right, that makes sense. So it's a win-win for everybody.
It is. It is.
And it all starts with really listening to your users.
It does. It does.
So let's say I'm a sauce company owner and I'm like, okay, I'm convinced I want to make UX a top priority. Where do I even begin?
Well, the first step is to gather as much feedback as you can from your users.
Okay.
Do surveys, conduct user interviews, get people into usability testing. I mean, anything that gives you insights into their needs, their pain points, and their overall experience with your product.
Yeah, and don't be afraid of like the negative feedback, right?
No, not at all.
I mean, those complaints and criticisms can actually be the most valuable pieces of information because they show you exactly where you need to improve.
You're absolutely right. Sometimes the most passionate feedback comes from the users who are the most frustrated,
Yeah.
and they care enough to tell you what's wrong.
Right, right. Okay. So once you've gathered all this feedback, what's next? Like how do you make sense of it all?
This is where analysis and synthesis come in.
Okay.
Look for patterns in the feedback. Look for trends.
Yeah.
Data visualization tools can be really, really helpful here because they let you see the big picture and really pinpoint those areas that need the most attention.
Right. And let's not forget about those user engagement metrics we talked about earlier.
No, those are important.
Those can provide really valuable clues about, where users are getting stuck, where they're dropping off and where they're actually having the most success.
It's about connecting the dots between the qualitative feedback and the quantitative data to really get like a holistic picture of the user experience.
Right. Okay. We've listened to our users.
We have.
We've analyzed the data.
Yep.
We've identified the pain points. Now it's time to, roll up our sleeves and start making those UX improvements.
Exactly. And remember, it's an iterative process. You're not going to get everything perfect right away.
Right.
The key is to test and learn and refine as you go.
Yeah, it's a journey.
It is. It's about embracing the fact that UX is a journey, not a destination.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. And the landscape of SaaS is constantly changing, so your UX needs to keep evolving too.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm curious, what are some of the biggest trends that you're seeing in SaaS UX right now? Like what's on the horizon?
Well, one of the, I think, biggest trends is this move towards personalization.
Oh, yeah.
Users are expecting more tailored experiences.
Right.
They want things to be customized to their individual needs and preferences.
It's like having a personal shopper for your software.
It is. It is. And this is where AI and machine learning are becoming really, really important.
Oh, yeah.
They can help you analyze all that user data and deliver those personalized experiences to a lot of people.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Another trend I'm seeing is like the rise of these micro interactions.
Yeah.
Those subtle, animations and like feedback mechanisms that make the interface feel more responsive and engaging.
Yeah, micro interactions are a really great way to add those little moments of delight that we were talking about. They
Yeah.
can make even like boring tasks feel, a little bit more enjoyable.
Yeah, and they can also help guide users through those, complex workflows and give them the feedback they need to like feel confident.
All about those little details that can make a big difference.
Right, exactly. Speaking of details, another trend I'm excited about is the growing focus on accessibility,
Oh yeah, that's huge.
making sure SaaS products are usable by people with disabilities. It's not only, the right thing to do, but it's also good for business.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah.
When you design for accessibility, you're designing for everyone.
Yeah.
You're creating a more inclusive and user-friendly experience that benefits all users.
Right. That's a great point. Okay. So we've covered a lot of ground today, from the importance of UX in SaaS to, those 5 steps for improving it to the latest trends that are shaping the industry.
It's been a fascinating deep dive.
Yeah.
And I hope our listeners are like feeling inspired to take their SaaS UX to the next level.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up, I want to circle back to something you said earlier about the importance of delight in the user experience. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure.
Like, what does it actually mean to create a delightful SaaS experience?
That's a great question. To me, delight is about going above and beyond what people expect.
Okay.
It's about creating an experience that's not only, functional and usable, but also enjoyable and even memorable.
So it's those little things that make you smile.
Yeah, exactly. It's those little touches that make you feel like valued and appreciated as a user.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's challenge our listeners. What's one thing you can do today to inject a little bit of delight into your SaaS product?
Ooh, that's a good one.
It could be something small, like adding a fun animation to your loading screen or something bigger, like revamping your entire onboarding flow to make it more engaging and intuitive.
The key is to really think about those moments in the user journey
Yeah.
where you can create, a positive emotional response.
Yeah.
Those are the moments that will stick with people and make them want to keep using your product.
Yeah. And remember, delight is not a one-time thing, right?
No, definitely not.
It's an ongoing commitment to exceeding expectations and creating an experience that really makes your users happy.
Well said, well said.
So we've talked about the what, the why, and the how of SaaS UX. But there's one more question I want to explore before we wrap up. What is the future of SaaS UX?
Ooh, that's a big one. But yeah, I'm happy to share my thoughts.
Okay.
I think we're going to see an even bigger emphasis on personalization and AI-driven experiences.
Right.
As SaaS products become more sophisticated, and have more data, we'll be able to tailor the user experience in ways we couldn't even imagine before.
It's like having like a personal UX concierge, right?
Yeah.
They know all your habits, your goals, your pain points.
Uh-huh.
And they're constantly working behind the scenes to optimize your experience.
Exactly. And that will lead to, a smoother, more intuitive experience where everything just works the way you expect it to.
Yeah, that's the dream.
It is. It is.
I'm also excited about the potential of AR and VR in SaaS UX.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine being able to interact with your data, your workflows in like a fully immersive 3D environment.
That's a really cool idea. It could totally change how we work and collaborate, especially for tasks that involve, spatial reasoning or visual manipulation of data.
And it could also open up new possibilities for training and onboarding, making it way easier for users to learn and adapt to new systems.
Yeah, the possibilities are endless.
Right. So it seems like the future of SaaS UX is bright,
It does.
filled with innovation and all these exciting new possibilities.
Absolutely. I can't wait to see what the next generation of SaaS products will bring.
Me too. Me too. But for now, let's just appreciate how far we've come.
Yeah.
SaaS UX has evolved so much over the past few years.
It has.
And it's only going to get better from here.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, I think we've covered just about everything. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Just one. Remember, at the end of the day, SaaS UX is all about people. It's about understanding their needs, what motivates them, what they want to achieve, and then designing an experience that helps them get there.
Well said. Well said. And on that note, I want to thank our listeners for joining us on this depth dive into the world of SaaS UX. We hope you found it informative, insightful, and maybe even a little bit delightful.
Thanks for having me. It's been great sharing my thoughts with you and the listeners.
And remember, if you have any questions, comments, or like epic SaaS UX disaster stories, we'd love to hear from you. You can find us on social media or visit our website at website address. Until next time, happy diving.
It's interesting you bring up the future of SaaS UX, because it's not just about, jumping on the bandwagon with all those fancy new technologies like AI and VR.
Right.
It's also about how our understanding of what makes a truly great user experience is evolving.
Okay.
And I think one of the most important aspects of that moving forward is going to be simplicity.
Simplicity. But isn't the whole challenge with SaaS UX that these platforms are like inherently complex?
Right.
Have to handle so many different like tasks and workflows and user roles.
That's true. That's true. But complexity doesn't have to, automatically mean a confusing user experience.
Okay.
In fact, I think you could even argue that the more complex a system is, the more important it is to have a really simple and intuitive interface.
So how do we actually achieve that? How do we simplify something that's inherently complex?
It's a combination of things.
Okay.
It starts with, really understanding your users, their needs, and their mental models.
Uh-huh.
Like, what are they actually trying to do? How do they think about their work?
Yeah, it's about like stepping into their shoes.
Well,
Yeah.
exactly. Seeing the world through their eyes.
Right.
And once you have that understanding,
Yeah.
you can start to design an interface that reflects those mental models.
Yep.
And guides users through those complex processes.
Yeah.
In a way that feels natural, intuitive.
So it's not about like dumbing things down. It's
Right.
about making things like clear and easy to understand.
Exactly. And that often means, hiding the complexity behind the scenes.
Okay.
So users only see what they need to see when they need to see it.
It's kind of like a well-designed car, right?
Yeah.
You don't need to like understand how the engine works to drive it. You just need to know how to use the steering wheel and the pedals.
Exactly. That's a great analogy.
And just like with a car, a well-designed SaaS product should feel effortless to use.
Right.
Even if there's a lot of like, complicated stuff happening under the hood.
It should just work.
This reminds me of something we talked about earlier about respecting the user's cognitive load.
Yes.
If we're constantly bombarding them with information and choices, they're just going to get overwhelmed.
They will, yeah.
And frustrated.
Absolutely. Simplicity is about reducing that cognitive load and making it easier for users to focus.
Right.
To focus on what they're trying to do.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of SaaS UX, I think it's worth like really emphasizing this point. Simplicity it's not just a design aesthetic.
It's not. No.
It's a core principle that should like guide every aspect of the user experience.
It should be baked into everything.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be even more important in the years to come as SaaS products continue to evolve and become even more powerful.
It's almost like a paradox, right?
It is.
As technology gets more complex, the user experience needs to become simpler.
Yeah.
And more intuitive.
It's a challenge, but it's also a huge opportunity, to create these really exceptional SaaS products.
Yeah.
That really help users and empower them to achieve their goals.
Well, on that note, I want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into this fascinating world of SaaS UX.
It's a fun.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights and you're feeling inspired to create those exceptional user experiences.
I hope so too.
And remember, if you have any questions, comments, or like, epic SaaS UX disaster stories,
We love those.
we love to hear from you.
Yeah.
You can find us on social media or visit our website at website address. Until next time, happy diving.